Hey, it's Dan Moralez. This is Homebuyer Radio. I am here with my good friend, Dietch-Schaefer. Dietch.
Yep.
Right? I got it right? Okay.
Dietch-Schaefer, but I'll answer to anything.
Oh my gosh, you just did it and I got it wrong.
It's
oh
all
my
good.
Gosh, it's so bad. It's like a typical guy.
Yeah, like I just said.
I got like 30 seconds memory.
No,
and
all good. Let's just stick with Ash. I'm good with that.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Well, anyways, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get together with Ashley, and I wanted to talk about just kind of the market, market conditions, the things that you see that kind of trip buyers up, the things that are really good about buying a house, right? And just kind of your experience, your background, how you got to the point where you have your own company, and how you got there, right? Like that just didn't happen overnight.
No.
You're like, no,
it did not.
There's a lot to it, man, right?
Yeah.
But just, kind of share some of your kind of experience to how you got here. And, you have a heart to help people, and it's evident in what you do. Having had the opportunity to work with you multiple times, I see it in how you care for your clients. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to have you on the podcast, because you have a wealth of knowledge and experience to be able to share with people. In the background of this podcast, this is, I think, probably close to the 140th episode I've done.
Awesome.
So it's like 2+ years that we've done this. But, it's always, my heart has always been to just educate people, put it out there, let people be able to, learn more about the process.
Yeah.
What's kind of a trip to me is just the audience is like all throughout the country.
I love it.
Oh
my gosh.
So like I'll get emails from people in California, New York.
I love it.
All over. And so it's really cool.
So cool.
But tell me, what's your story? What's your background and how you got to this point?
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I'm honored to be on the podcast. So thank you for having me. And we are good friends. So we're just having a good conversation now. I love it. I started in 2009. And as weird as it is to say, I was really fortunate to start at that time. I mean, we were in the bottom of a recession, which most people would not say, hey, this is great, I should get my real estate license. But sweet, naive me, I had no idea. So I thought, let's go for it. And at the time, our normal days on market it wasn't days, it was months. Houses were selling in 3 to 4 months. And I realized I got some resiliency that I didn't know I was getting at the time, which I think has honestly really helped me in our current seller's market. So when I started 2009, almost 10 years ago, which is crazy to say, buyer's market, and things were really tough. Things were really tough around the country. And here in Grand Rapids, locally, we've done exceedingly well. Our market is through the roof in terms of a seller's market. We're behind nationally in terms of price. So our average price in our county is about $235,000. Okay. When you look at our county versus similar counties around the country, we're way behind. So people are like, $235, that's a steal. But here, that's our normal price. But, we've done really well locally. So we've totally shifted, as most places do, in a 10-year time span. But so I started then. And I just really learned how to hustle, When a house sells in 3 months, you're like, all right, I got a lot of time to figure this out. And I showed, oh my goodness, some of the worst houses I've ever seen in my life. Wow. Just things that we could have another podcast on. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people's struggles. I learned a lot about what it's like to buy and sell a house. Maybe when you don't want to, you might not want to sell your house, but the market conditions are pushing you to do that. So, I learned a lot about how to really connect with people on an emotional level. And that's really what I think propelled my business is I try to be a chameleon. So whatever my client needs me to be, I do my best to be that person for them. And I think that that's really what's helped me connect with other people is I follow a lot of different scales, but whatever my client needs me to be is what I be. So that's really, I think, what's helped scaled me to where I am today.
I always think people forget that this is a people business, right? Like, there's so much talk about there's these websites, Zillow and so on, people are going to get away from using, an actual live agent. It's like, no, this is very much a people
Absolutely.
business. And when you look at it, it's like, I think especially for agents, because you guys work, I think, a lot closer with the client long term.
Right.
You really go even deeper than what we do as lenders with those clients. But I oftentimes feel like I'm a counselor sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's, the purchase of a house is just one part of like this big picture of life, right? And that's the big thing is like, what we do really impacts people's like lives. Like this is where they go, that it's home, and it's not just a deal. It's not just a transaction. Like this is a really big deal for the people that we have the opportunity to serve. And having worked with you enough times, like I know that you genuinely care about your clients and that you will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that they are well taken care of and served. And I don't see that with everybody that I have the opportunity to work with.
Right. I work with them too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, like you just don't see it with everybody. And it's too bad. But, you have a very genuine care for those clients. So it's easy for me, in the sidelines to see like how your businesses have grown and how you have gotten to the point where you are, because you have a genuine care and a desire to really serve people, and it's evident in what you do.
Oh, thanks.
So that's and I think that's one of those things, and I've talked about this in previous episodes with clients, is that it really matters who you work with.
100%. I say that all the time. Who you work with matters.
Yeah, because it's, if you happen to get to one of those agents that maybe doesn't care as much, then maybe they're just concerned with pushing you through, and they're not really helping to navigate you through those waters of, hey, maybe this isn't the best choice for you. Maybe this is maybe a better choice, and here's why.
Exactly. Absolutely. And, I think that every, at least realtor that I know, has an opportunity to be that person, right? I think that innately people are good people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not also naive enough to know that, or to think that I'm the best fit for every single person. I get that I can't align with every person, but I will say I do believe I've figured out a way in my business to help as many people as I possibly can by being genuinely myself.
Yep.
And just listening to them. That's really some of the things I hear the most is my realtor didn't listen to me. And oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What the heck? My only job is to listen.
How can you possibly help someone if you haven't taken enough time to really understand what they need? And sometimes I always like to say, sometimes clients don't know what they need.
Yes.
Or they have a thought that, I feel like I need this, and really what you needed was that.
Yeah.
But you didn't know enough about it to know that you really needed that.
Right.
So, my job is to help educate you and get you to a point where you can help understand why I would maybe make a recommendation this way versus a different way.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to make sure that I'm positioning you for the best success, if you will, in the future.
You're exactly right. And that's what I tell the agents in my office too. I own a small independent brokerage. I've got 5 other agents and I full-time sell. And I always say our job is to advise our clients. They don't know what decisions they can make.
Yep.
They don't even know what their options are. Because if they did, they wouldn't hire us.
Yeah. Well,
so they've hired me. They've hired us to tell them what their options are. And then it's up to them to make the best decision that they can for themselves. And we're here to guide them. But I always say, here's all your options.
Yep.
And I want to do what's best for you. But how could they possibly know?
Yeah.
How could they know?
Your job is to help educate them and help them understand here's the pluses and minuses to everything, right?
Yes. And as a realtor, I have to stay on top of my education too, to know that I know the options that they should know.
Yeah. Right.
So it's important to stay, relevant in your market.
That is such a good point, right? As we start to look at, there's people who think, hey, the market's shifting or changing. It's just staying on top of the market, knowing the differences from, let's say, a downtown condo versus a house in the Northwest side or something like that. Like, what are these little submarkets within a bigger city? What areas are, maybe more positive than others?
Yes.
What price points are more positive than others? You have to really be a student of the industry, but you also have to keep on top of it.
Right.
And, the best way to keep on top of it is to actively be selling, actively working with buyers and sellers.
Yes.
That's where, the volume of transactions you do, you're actively involved in a number of transactions at any given time all over the city.
Right.
That's huge.
Right.
Because you have knowledge in all these different areas where if your cousin just got into real estate and, they don't know.
No, exactly.
They don't know. And do you want them to learn at your expense, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I tell my clients exactly that. Who you work with matters. And I'm not offended if I don't work with a client that is outside of my service area, because bottom line, the client has to be serviced.
Yep.
So, right, if I don't sell on the Northwest side, I'm not going to lie to them and say I do just to work with them because
Yeah.
they're going to be disappointed and they'll find out real quick I don't know what I'm talking about. So what I do, at least in my own business, is I'll refer them to a great agent in that area. I've got relationships everywhere. And then that way that client's taken care of and I don't have to go out of my way to an area I'm not familiar or comfortable with. And they can work with someone that does know that. And it's honestly best case scenario. So some of my advice to my clients is interview me, interview your agent. Do they really know what you're asking them to know? Because that's so important.
That's such a good piece of advice. And I've had a couple of agents I've interviewed, and they've had that same kind of thing. Where like it's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Interview, sit down, have coffee, and really get to know someone. Where sometimes what happens is people they fill out a form on Zillow, or they get into some kind of lead magnet and. Oh, well, this person called me back, so I'm just going to turn around and, I'll work with them.
Right.
And it's like the most least qualified person. They don't know what they're doing. I run into that where, I've had clients where I'm like, you're working with who?
Right.
I'm like, I don't know who they are, and I've done this 29 years. Almost anybody that's had modest success I've had the opportunity to work with at some point in time as part of a transaction.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, I've never heard that name. I don't know who they are. And that's
let's
the person,
proceed with caution.
That's the person that's going to like represent you in the biggest, purchase you're going to make. I just don't feel comfortable with that.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I don't, it's not that new agent shouldn't have a chance, but I think that they should know what they're getting into.
I think of it as you want somebody who has knowledge and experience, right? There are plenty of people that younger, newer agent has the opportunity to work with, because there are plenty of people that won't do the homework to interview agents.
Right.
They won't do a little bit of research. They won't look at reviews. They won't look at that kind of stuff to say like, wow, this person has a track record of success. They have positive reviews. They have a really good record all the way around. And I think the other thing too is, the agent's reputation, lack of knowledge, and so on. Because if you're writing an offer on a transaction, that offer, if you're in a very competitive market, that offer is going to carry more weight than maybe that newer agent. Because
it really does.
People know you, and they know that if you put an offer together, you properly vetted the buyer, that deal has the higher probability of getting across the finish line.
Yes.
Where, sometimes I don't know who this agent is. And all things even.
Exactly.
That agent's not likely going to win.
Right. And is at the risk of sounding maybe conceited, it really does hold some weight. It does hold weight.
I see it on our end. I see it. I always tell people, there's a fine line between confident and cocky, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being confident in the fact that you do a really good job, right?
And we are confident in that. We know that if we're going to write an offer, we stand behind it. Even if things go wrong, I'm going to call the other agent. Hey, what can we do to figure this out? Let's talk through it. Two confident, knowledgeable agents will get to the closing table.
Absolutely.
And they can represent their clients to the best of their ability. And it's not an argument. We're not mad at each other. It's all good. We just know what we're doing. And it really makes a difference. So,
and I see it as a lender, I see that all the time where, when you get good agents, it's like I always tell people, we get paid to find solutions. My job is to help find the best solution for you when it comes to financing a house. Your job is to find the best solution for when it comes to buying a house, right? And if you get good people around the table, that deal is generally going to get done.
Absolutely.
You get somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, inexperienced, and you're in for like a world of hurt, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I've seen plenty of that in the market, and it's interesting because you talk about like when you started when the market was tougher. And I remember those days very well. Like, you want to sell your house? Good luck. You go from that to Grand Rapids being one of the absolute hottest markets in the country, where there's 50 people fighting to get into the house and write an offer and everything else. And so, that's a very diverse set of skills, right? That you got to have from, here to here to be able to navigate that, where there's a lot of agents. The only thing they know is maybe kind of the better end of the market the last maybe couple of years.
Exactly. Right.
So they don't know what it's like when you get into more of, I don't want to say a regular market because that was a regular market.
Right.
But when you get more into a regular market where things are maybe a little more balanced, they maybe don't understand the fine nuances because, one of the things I think a lot of times people have a problem with, and I think this is probably something you guys are going to start to experience a little bit more, is a seller who thinks like, well, the market's gone crazy. I can just list my house for whatever price and there'll be 100 people that will come in and want to buy it.
Oh yeah.
You know, maybe talk a little bit about that. You know, I know we talk a lot, you know, for buyers, but when it comes to somebody who's selling, you know, and it comes to pricing a house and that, what kinds of things are you looking at when you try to determine what the value of a property is, you know, for somebody who's going to sell?
Yeah. I always say I don't list houses, I sell houses.
Yep.
There's a difference. And again, there's my confidence showing, huh? But there is a difference. There are listing agents who list houses, and that's not the same as selling.
Yeah.
So I try to be really realistic when I meet with my clients.
Yep.
And maybe to a fault, I'm a little too honest, but I don't want to list a house and then come back to them 2 weeks later and say, we really actually should replace that carpet.
Yeah.
Or you know what, we really needed to do those things when I didn't address it up front.
Yeah.
So I try to be really honest in those first conversations, set the expectations, and you know, we have to discuss market conditions.
Yeah.
Every single situation is different.
Yeah.
So I love when they say, well, XYZ News said the market's this and houses are selling in 2 hours for 20% higher.
Yeah.
And I said, that's true in another location
Yeah.
that was specific to that home.
Yep.
And we're thrilled for those sellers. That's great.
Yeah.
But that might not be their home. And I don't want them coming back to me saying, why didn't that happen to my house? Because it could happen.
Yeah.
So that's where that being that knowledgeable agent comes in. If I don't know that local market, and that's literally the difference between east and west in our city. If I don't know it, I have to study or I have to find someone that does. So, you know, to sellers, it's kind of the normal stuff. You know, it has to be in showing condition. It's got to be clean. It's got to be ready to go. And especially in our local market, we are seeing a slight shift. If the house isn't perfect, and I mean that, if it's not perfect, it's not going to sell as fast because there are perfect houses on the market or close to perfect. So we are having these conversations again with sellers. You know, it's still a seller's market, but you still have to do these things.
It's getting a little closer to normal.
It is. We're seeing a little correction. Yeah. So it's important to take the time to paint those walls, clean the carpets, do the landscaping, maybe the things we didn't have to do a couple years ago. Because literally, if it had a roof and 4 walls, it sold. And that's still the case, but now the walls have to be prettier and the roof might have to be new.
That's awesome.
You know, so we're having those realistic conversations, but our houses are selling, and so we have to kind of be the tough love person, which takes a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of confidence, but we can do it because they want to sell their house. And again, if they knew how to do it, they do it by themselves. So they've hired me to tell them what to do.
And, you know, and that's such good advice, right? Like, you know, I think a lot of times people don't know, right? You know, in the market it's always moving, like it's a moving target, right? You know, the conditions today may be different than what they are 30 days from now, 60 days from now, and so on. You know, you really have to have somebody who knows what they're doing. They can help you, you know, put that house in the best position possible to be able to sell it. Versus, I put my house in the market, I overpriced it, it sat on the market too long. Then they wanted me to go do all these repairs to it afterwards. Like you said, you know, when you could have had that conversation right up front, you do have those honest conversations with people right up front, as opposed to, we burnt the market up 6 months later. We had to drop the price massively. You know, we did.
Well, I know that they're
wrong.
They're afraid. I know some realtors are afraid to hurt their clients' feelings. Say, we got to take all this down. There's a tactful way to have those discussions.
Absolutely.
And on the sell side, there's a way to receive those discussions, you know, to say, okay, what if I took 5 items down instead of 10? You know, can we clear it out a little? There's always a compromise. So I think that being realistic and having those conversations up front is so crucial.
Well, and that's just how you operate your practice. Right? You shoot straight. You're honest with people. You want them to get the absolute best result that they can get.
Of course.
And sometimes those conversations lead to that best result. And so it's important to have them with clients sometimes. Let's talk about buyers a little bit. I mean, you guys work with a ton of buyers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what do you think is the biggest thing that a buyer overlooks as part of this like buying process? Where do you think they get tripped up the most, or what do you see as kind of the biggest hurdle?
Okay, I think there's 2. One for sure is finances. The most oftentimes we'll see, hey, I got pre-approved. I can afford XYZ. They have no idea what that means in their monthly payment. They have no idea that could change if their escrows change.
Absolutely.
They have no idea. They just see one number.
Yeah.
And well, this is more of a conversation for a lender. I have to remind my buyers that if you're approved for XYZ, does that max you out?
Yeah.
Can you buy the couch? Can you buy the curtains? Yeah. Can you go out to dinner to celebrate? Or are you maxed out? So, a financial conversation is huge.
Yes.
Especially for those first-time home buyers who are so excited, but don't know all the information.
Yeah. A lot of times they don't have a clue of what they don't know.
No.
And, they'll look at just a monthly payment.
Yep.
Well, they won't understand, everything else that goes with it.
Yep.
And as much as we can go through and trying to paint that picture, for clients of here's what you got to have, the monthly payment and that, I see it, on our end. It's like, well, we've told you like 35 times.
Right.
Don't quit your job. Don't max out your credit card. And like they still go do it anyways, right?
I know.
And you're like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. So it's so crucial to work with a lender who knows what they're doing, which of course is you. Yes. But same thing with the cousin realtor. We got cousin lenders.
Yeah.
Well, my cousin just came a lender. Great. Can't use him.
Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah. So having those conversations up front, who you work with matters.
Absolutely.
So that's probably one big thing. And then, the other thing is just being realistic about the home.
Yeah.
This might be the wrong term, but how people get like beer goggles and they just can't see clear.
Yeah.
People get like house goggles. They're like, this is great. I'm like, oh my gosh, all the appliances are ripped out of the wall. Or I hear, we get like HGTV goggles. Maybe we should call them that.
Yeah.
Like what? I can just tear down this wall and do this. I'm like, no. Let's take a step back. If the house doesn't work, it doesn't work. Let's keep looking.
Yeah.
So I think that some of those expectations of what their house looks like or what they want it to look like, don't align. So we spend a lot of time just guiding them, if this is your budget, let's be really realistic and strict with that so that we can find, what fits best for you.
I think a lot of times too, people lose sight of the fact that like, this is oftentimes the first step when it comes to housing, right? Like my first house, eventually you're going to sell that house, you're going to buy the next one,
right,
and so on. I think of a couple when I first started lending. I did their very first loan for them, and then 20 years later, that first house was a small little house in Kentwood that was like $80,000.
Yep.
Gosh, I don't know how many years ago. Last house was this big house on the lake. It was like $600,000.
Sure.
But it never would have been possible without the little stops
exactly
in between as they did that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times there's some buyers who, they're shooting for the stars in that very first house. And then it turns out, like they max themselves out. They're broke. They can't go celebrate because they used all their money to close.
Right.
Yeah. And I've seen some of those where it's just like, and you can try to help people understand some of that, but it's like sometimes there are some clients that, they're almost bent on making a bad financial decision.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's their decision. But I will have to say one little thing, millennials have been getting a bad rap for a while, but I will say our millennial clients have been so budget conscious, which is awesome. That is our primary demographic that buys the house that's probably too small for them, just so that they can have that extra cash, which is so great.
I totally agree with you because I do think millennials get a bad rap.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they will research.
Exactly.
They will get as much information as they can before making a decision.
Right.
Part of the challenge on our end is sometimes the research they do, they get a lot of bad information.
Right.
And so it's like, well,
we have to correct
it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
Here's, because it was somebody who just put out a piece of content that was misguided or wrong.
Right.
But they are at least...
They sought it
They
out.
are, I think, oftentimes by older generations like me, they're misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I think in all honesty, they ask better questions.
Yeah.
They're far more detailed at looking at the information and so on, which I actually love.
Yeah.
Because it gives us a chance to shine and show them like, we do know what we're doing.
Right.
Here's the differences, in this option versus this option.
Right.
Here's the pluses and minuses. And, it's fun to help them, succeed in getting that first house. But then when they sell that one and buy the next one and so on, it's, that's the stuff to me that is rewarding, right?
Yep.
It's the stuff that makes this job fun to do.
Right. And they're very loyal, right?
Absolutely.
So I've been able to help a lot of my clients, and I'm a millennial too. So they just call me, hey, Ash, we're ready to sell. Great. Yep. And we move on. So if you're a millennial buyer listening, good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of them. There's a ton of them.
Okay, good.
I can tell you, I've talked to a number of listeners.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Like it's been a great source of business.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. To me, it's always been fun to be able to go out there and help educate people.
Right.
Because I've had clients that have reached out to me and said, hey, I've listened to 50 episodes and I learned so much more than what I would have known had I listened to none.
Love
So
that. So cool.
that's the stuff where it's like, okay, cool. Like it's serving the purpose that it's meant to have.
Yep.
So when you look out and you look into the housing market, right, and your great big crystal ball, you're like, don't ask me this
that
question.
I don't have. Yeah.
You're like, don't ask me this question, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're even asking me.
Yeah.
But when you look into like, what do you see? It's hard to, nobody can guess. It's like people ask me, where do you see interest rates going?
Right.
If I could tell you 100% correct, I'd be like on Wall Street smoking a
right.
cigar, counting
I wouldn't be here.
Cash, right? But what do you? I mean, when you look at it, and you're talking to, let's say, buyers or sellers, because I think we had some buyers for a while that had buyer's fatigue.
Right.
Because
oh my gosh,
the market was so hot and they got so sick of losing on offers and stuff like that. What would you say to somebody who maybe sat on the sidelines for a while because of that?
Yeah, well, we totally get that. We've got some of our own clients that unfortunately we just could not get something to stick. And perseverance is key. So, sticking with it, trying, listening to your realtor, taking their advice and doing the best you can. However, if you chose to sit out, I would encourage you to get back in, especially if you're in our local market or a market similar to ours, because things are changing.
Yep.
And I think it's so important to be informed. So same thing, I don't have a crystal ball, but I study our national economics regularly.
Yep.
And I want to know what's happening, because how can I inform my clients? So I study a lot about what's happening on the coasts and then how that trickles into, our Midwest area. We are going to see a slight shift. It's still not going to be a buyer's market, but it's not going to be a crazy seller's market. And just in July, I wrote a couple offers that were contingent on their home selling.
Yeah.
And a year ago, that would have been a Hail Mary. Like, forget it.
It's not going to happen, man.
I don't even want to put my name on this. Oh my gosh. And not only did I write it, they got accepted because we saw something change and we saw an opportunity. We went for it.
Yep.
So also don't be afraid to try.
Yeah.
And that's what goes along too with having a good relationship with the other realtors. I called up the other agent. I said, hey, I've got a great offer coming over. It's just got this one little thing. It's not a big deal. We'll work through it. And we made it work. Yeah. So if you're the person that's listening that sat out for a little bit, I'd encourage you to start again because you never know. And it's worth trying. And, as Dan knows, rates have gone down. Yep. We're in a little bit better spot, maybe financially from an interest rate standpoint. Yep. So, now could be that time.
And I think, the predictions I see as far as rates is that they're going to continue to go down. That,
Great.
Going into 2020, we could see cost of money that is, some of the lowest we've ever seen.
Wow.
So that helps to make, buying a house an even better decision or better opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially if you get a market that's closer to normal. And I would agree with you. I don't think you're going to see a buyer's market.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a little bit closer to normal, more here locally.
I think so too.
Do you think that varies by price point though too?
It certainly does. Like I said, our local average is about $235. Now we do anticipate that continuing to appreciate, maybe single digits though. We've had like a 10%.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Year over year appreciation. That's nuts. Yeah. A standard market is like a single digit appreciation. So that's the other thing for that buyer. You should buy now because it's going to continue to go up. Maybe not as much as before, but it will. Yep. And that's what we want. We want an economy that grows. Yep. But yes, there are other markets that are a higher price point that just don't move as quickly. Yeah. And we don't see those changes as much in, for example, a $500,000 house. That's just a higher than average price point here. So it's not the same. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's like, it's a good opportunity, right? For those of you who were fatigued, you maybe were in the market and you got tired of losing out on offers,
Yeah.
right? Now is a great time to maybe get back into it.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
start to, maybe look again and realize that maybe now might be your opportunity.
Right.
The good news for them is that rates have stayed really good.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So it's not like your cost of money should be worse. And if anything, there might be some additional options that are available now that might have been available previously.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
almost like a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we're coming up on 30 minutes here. So
Okay.
how do people get in touch with you?
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, do you want to Instagram, Facebook, call, text?
You name it. Whatever
Oh my
works.
gosh, we're so accessible. So my brokerage is Hello Homes GR. We're super social media heavy, so we get Facebook and Instagram messages all the time. So that's easy to do. You can message us that way. You can visit us at hellohomesgr.com. Of course, you can always reach me on my cell, 616-439-1272, or Ashley at hellohomesgr.com.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks
thank
for the
you.
plug, Dan.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? Like the whole thing is like, you have to have that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's important to me.
Love it.
I think it's good for people to be able to know how to contact you, right?
Yeah.
If they consume the content, they're like, wow, you know what? I resonate with her. I
Cool.
want to be able to make a connection. It's a great way to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending a half hour
I'm
of your
honored
time
to
with me.
help.
So
Thanks.
that's awesome. Again, I'm Dan Moralez, NMLS number 709-729. You can reach me at 616-931-4629 or online at danmoralez.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. And of course, Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender. Have a good one.